Hello and welcome to another episode of the Three Donkeys podcast. My name is Adam Levitan, father of Jerry, who is currently out getting a haircut. I am joined, as always, by my fellow donks, Jonathan Bales and Peter Jennings, and we are coming off of Sloan, the Sports Analytics Conference up in Boston. I was not able to go. Both Peter and Bales were able to go. So first, boys, welcome home. Or I guess Bales isn't even home. Bales came home and went to New York for hashtag regular employee life. Bales, what's going on?
Not much. Yeah, I'm up in New York. Yeah, Sloan was great. It's pretty surreal that we watched Obama. We were like near the front too, and it was pretty cool to watch him talk. And I've been going to Sloan for a while. I actually went there I don't know, maybe like 7 years ago or something. When I was doing stuff with the cow. I actually wasn't even doing anything with the Cowboys. I had my own Cowboys analytics blog, and I went there to meet with their analytics guy, and Jason Garrett was there, and I just went up to him, and it was really awkward, and was telling him all the ways that I thought he kind of sucked as a play caller. So that was my intro to Sloan. So it's been amazing to see how it's grown to the point that they're able to get Obama to speak there.
I noticed that I think, if I'm not mistaken, Action Network was the sponsor of the Obama portion of Sloan. Is that right, Peter? I saw Action Network logos all over the Obama situation.
It's true. We were one of the major sponsors for the entire conference, and it was cool to be the sponsor of the room where Obama gave a talk. I tweeted out a picture of all of us fellow nerds waiting to get in to see Obama speak. I mean, we were stuffed in there like sardines trying to get in. It was unbelievable. There was a line like a mile long to get up there, and it's pretty cool to see the growth. Probably the most fulfilling thing for me is for Daryl. Daryl Morey obviously put this together, and Daryl's just an awesome, candid, great dude who's obviously had a ton of success. Rockets are clicking in all cylinders right now, and the conference has just become like a must-go if you're involved in the sports industry. So big shout out to Daryl. He did a great job. He was on a ton of panels. He was obviously on the panel with Barack Obama, which was cool. And it was interesting to hear Brock talk about the analytics and politics, and then his opinion and some of the things he would change in sports. His big thing for the NBA is developing the G League, which obviously coincides with what's going on with the NCAA. So we weren't planning to talk about the NCAA, but I'm pretty passionate about that. I think it's obviously one of the most corrupt organizations, and hopefully we'll see a lot of change. LeBron's talking about it. Obama's talking about it. Hopefully we'll get some changes here in the NCAA.
Do you think that Obama was like, let me see what this Action Network is that's sponsoring my talk, and then he goes and he finds exploiting betting edges in women's tennis in Abu Dhabi and stuff like that?
Obama knows of Action, and I believe he has an Action T-shirt because he's good friends with Peter, not this Peter. Our other Peter, Uncle Peter.
He's pretty good friends with me too. I call Obama, every couple nights just to get some advice. Me and Barack going back, and obviously that's very facetious.
So, I want to talk about the NCAA thing too. But before we leave the Sloan thing, we have to talk about Lord Hinkie, our Lord and Savior. The rap on him here in Philly was he never talked to the media. He was this just weird guy, stuck behind spreadsheets. And that's really not the case. If you've seen him talk, he's actually really engaging and seems like a good guy. I think that while he was here, he just didn't want to tell his strategies to everybody. If you're really good at something and you think you have an edge over people, and, people could talk about us with DFS or whatever, but it's probably not in your best interest to tell everybody. So I thought that's why Hinkie didn't talk that much while he was here. It was obviously a mistake because he ended up getting fired in part because of it, but I understand that he was the only one to get a standing ovation at the conference. Maybe Obama did too, but did you guys see the Hinkie talk, and what did he talk about?
I have not seen it. I didn't watch it live.
Oh my God.
I can confirm that Brock did get a standing ovation.
Brock did get a standing ovation. We both missed the Hinkie talk, which I
Oh
know
my God,
is
you're
devastating
killing me.
news for you, Levitan.
What are you thinking? Why even go?
Was that one on Saturday?
I have no idea.
I think it might have been on Saturday. I didn't make as many of them on Saturday as I did on Friday.
All right. Any other highlights? You guys blew it, obviously. Any other highlights from Sloan? Like, what do people do? Like, do you just like? I've actually never been. Do you just like walk around and try to like quote unquote network with people and like tell them like hand out your business card and like say, hey, let's meet up and talk about numbers or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of that. Yeah, it's a lot of like you can get it is actually a good place to find job candidates and stuff. And I know that Colin's been talking to people that he met there, data scientists and stuff. There's really smart people. There's a lot of athletes and stuff like Chris Bosch was there and A-Rod and Robert Kraft. And I mean, there's like reps from every team now pretty much. It's huge. The main thing we did was just gamble on Connect 4. So a little bit different strategy maybe than some others. But it was a profitable Sloan conference for me.
Yeah, it was a good overall Sloan conference for Bales. Fleeced me out of some money in Connect 4. Both of us made some egregious moves. Unfortunately, I made more egregious moves, which was devastating. But there is a lot of networking opportunity because there's all these different panels, a lot of which are really informative and really well done. So you can kind of go to things you're interested in. You'll find like-minded people. And, the beautiful thing about Sloan now for us is meeting up with guys that you already know that are already in the industry that we're working in. And it's a great time just to reconnect and figure out kind of new things to do or ways to collaborate in the future. So obviously the networking is probably the biggest value, or finding job candidates in our situation, or if you're a young, smart person looking for a job in sports analytics, it's a great place to meet people. So they've done a really, really great job, developing the conference, and it's a lot of fun. And we got to see a lot of people we knew. We got to see some Fantasy Labs subscribers, got to see people interested in the Action Network. And outside of losing all my money in Connect 4 to Bales, it was a really good time.
I will say, whereas other conferences that I've been to, which isn't that many, I'm not like a huge conference guy. I think the talks are like kind of worthless. That's not the case at Sloan. Like you can hear Sam Hinkie or Jeff Ma or whoever up there talking about things, and like you get one piece of information that's really good, then I think that's like of obvious value. You make your money back really quickly if you get just like one really valuable insight. And I thought I did that with Obama actually, and the talks are actually very good for the most part.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're playing Connect 4 optimally, it should end in a tie every time, correct?
Not correct. The first guy who goes first should win every time.
No, that's wrong. I thought it was a draw every time.
I'm pretty sure it's the guy who goes first can win every time.
I don't know. I do know it's a completely solved game, but actually it's very we're not very good, but it's very hard to like actually figure out what's optimal. There's so many different options. We're not even fucking close to being able to figure out the optimal place to go. So it's a very fun game for people that aren't like complete experts at it, I guess.
Yeah, I haven't played it so long.
Computer, yeah, you would never win.
Yeah, I haven't played in so long. But yeah, it's definitely a good game. All right, anything else on Sloan on the Boston trip? Negative?
I mean, I'll say the one thing that I learned from Obama that I thought was, I guess two things. One, he's such a good speaker, and he talks so slowly, like he really thinks about what he's saying. And I mean, that's probably just like a reflection of his confidence. But if you don't have that, just pausing is, I think, really good in negotiations, and forcing yourself to go slowly and talk and sort of take pauses and stuff is really powerful. And then the second thing was that he said that he would purposely call on people in the White House to see what they had to think, because if you don't, you're only getting there's like a huge selection bias where you're only getting opinions from people that will speak up. And that like resonated with me a lot, because in meetings and stuff, a lot of times, unless I feel really, unless I have like really strong conviction about something, I don't really speak up about it. And so if I were like forced to talk about it, you would get maybe a different opinion than you would otherwise. He was talking specifically about women, I believe, and that they might not be as willing to share their opinion as men who just might be like more aggressive about it overall. But then you get a really skewed view of the world just because you're only listening to certain types of people who are willing to share their opinion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Quickly on Peter's NCAA thing, I heard a solution. I don't remember who I heard it from, but I thought it made perfect sense to me. You don't pay the players. The NCAA does not pay the players. However, if a player is capable of making money just like any other adult in America, he can do so. If he can sell his autograph, if he can sell his jersey, if he can go get free tattoos, anything he wants to do to make money off his name, of course, he's allowed to and still remain an NCAA athlete. But the schools won't be coming out of the school's pocket. So I thought that made a little bit of sense. I'm sure there's holes in that, but if people are looking for solutions, that seems like a simple one to me, no?
Yeah, I don't know what I guess the concern would be like their focus on, the university versus themselves, which obviously, they should be looking out for their own best interests. I don't have too many holes to poke in that. Obama suggested investing a lot more in like the minor league system for the NBA, which makes a ton of sense to me. I think if, there's a huge draw for that where, the best high school players that were like clear NBA locks were going there, the league would explode and would be ultimately beneficial to everyone. The same situation with like Isaiah Thomas coming back, like, everyone would frown and say it was awful. And like he would be looked upon in a really negative light if he went down to like the G League. But in this case, it truly was like the minor leagues, players coming back from injury, young high school players right out of school could go there. I think that makes a lot of sense. I see a big push there. And then, there'd still be the Steph Currys of the world who aren't quite ready or, maybe don't look like an NBA prospect right away that would develop in college. To me, that makes the most sense. But I like your idea as well. I mean, it's so preposterous what's happening right now.
You'd have to raise the salary, floor in the G League to like a ton, right? Because otherwise you're
But then ideally it'd monetize better too. Like a lot of guys are going to Europe or China because they can make more money. That's not a lucrative league. But if they had the best, high school prospects, like Zion, if Zion was going there and like you had the Jimmer Fredettes of the world and you had IT coming back playing in that league, it'd be compelling. And I think people would go to those games versus what's happening now. So that would be a change I think makes a lot of sense. That's what Obama suggested. Curious Bale's thoughts on that and also what Levitan suggested.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they should just get paid. But I also think they should be able to make money any way that they can, just like anybody else. They're grown men. Like it just makes no sense to me. I think that they should get paid, and I think they should be able to sell their autographs and do all of those things. You can make an argument that like, an offensive lineman that no one knows that goes to Alabama or something is really valuable, but they're not going to be able to sell their autograph. No one really wants it. They're not going to make money. They should probably still get paid because they're providing so much value to the school in the same way that a left tackle gets paid in the NFL, even though, he's not as famous as a wide receiver or quarterback or something.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're definitely going to see changes there. You know what I mean? It's like so obvious now to everybody that there has to be changes. So I think we'll see it. Also, if you haven't seen the movie Blue Chips, one of my favorite movies ever, great movie. You should definitely see it. All right. Bales made a post today about DFS results. Definitely resonated with me because I don't know, like I think the issue for me at least is that like I have plenty of risk tolerance. Like I'll lose, 5K or whatever in a night playing strictly cash, and I don't really sweat it too hard. But if I lost that much in GPPs, I would be so tilted because I don't see like a likely scenario where I get it back. Like I don't have confidence that I'm ever going to hit that big score. So for that reason, I have rarely tried, or I've tried at some points, but rarely tried to go for big score and try to quote unquote maximize when I'm right, which is what Bales talked about. So Bales, why don't you say why you wrote the article and what you think about what I just said?
Yeah, the article it had crypto in too, and it was really just to show the swings in like even like a really good year that you can in DFS at least most of the time I lose money, and showing that like if you take out I don't know the top uh, X percent, very low percent, or top few scores or whatever, you just like wouldn't be profitable if you're playing tournaments, and that's just the way it is. Like, there's no way around that. And yeah, that feeling of like, am I actually gonna be able to make this back or whatever? I think everyone has that. Like, you always doubt it, and I don't even know for sure. I just feel like I probably have the right strategy for it, but yeah, I mean, in the DFS graph that I posted, there was a run in the middle in probably I think it was like maybe June or something, June, July in MLB, where I just lost like every day, like for a long time. It's hard to say. And using the same strategy, maybe just slightly different from when I made money in the beginning of the year. So it is hard to say like, oh, I'm doing the same thing, this is right, but I just lost like 25 of the past 28 days or something. So it's just, yeah, it's super sick and neat. But your ability to deal with that volatility is, I think, really valuable in other areas outside of DFS.
Right. I don't know, maybe I'm like biased or maybe I'm an asshole, but like, I think so few people are making money in DFS or profitable in DFS as a GPP only player. Like, I think it's like so, so, so small. And the guys that are doing it are absolutely crushing. Like, I don't even know who, obviously Chipotle and those guys, but the guys that are really good at GPP only, yeah, the vast majority of people who are like, oh, I'm just a GPP player. To me, that's just code for like, you're not good enough and you're a loser. Maybe that's too harsh, but that's just the way I feel with the rake the way it is, and with the top heavy format. Like, people are just getting absolutely buried, and them like their way to say that like I'm just gonna play everybody and try to make a score is just like, oh, I'm a GPP player, everything's okay. I can lose for 30 straight days, and I'm a GPP player, that's okay. So maybe I'm super biased towards GPP players. I just think that most of them, vast majority of them, are huge losers.
Yeah, I think that that's probably the case where, you just say you're a GBP player or whatever. I disagree I think that the biggest edge is in GPPs by
Oh,
far.
for sure, for sure.
The only exception being maybe if you're really good at game selection in super high stakes head to heads. I think that, and I don't think that those will dry up. I actually think that there's a pretty decent market for those, and a good reason that those won't go away with like just certain people wanting to gamble on things. But otherwise, I think that is the biggest edge. But yeah, it's just like it's sort of like if someone loses, there's always the excuse, I guess, of oh, it's just variance. Like it's been like 5 years, it's just variance.
Yeah, we saw the same thing in poker too, right? Like, all the cash game guys would just hate on the GP or on the tournament guys, and it just depends. I mean, everything gets more efficient. I think both were really lucrative. Both cash games and tournaments were extremely lucrative in DFS in the beginning. Obviously, the one thing I thought that was undervalued by most people that I'm really happy I realized early was it was a lot easier to build up a big roll and not eat the variance when you add an edge playing cash games. So you might get lucky with tournaments and realize your equity and be able to build a roll quickly, but a lot of times you wouldn't be able to. And I saw a lot of guys that are really talented at DFS, build up a little bit of a roll, lose it all back in GPPs, build up a roll, lose it all back, then have one big score, then really ignore bankroll management after that, lose the roll again. Whereas the cash game grinders that really, grinded and had that edge, they were taking on so little variance. And when they had a clear edge, they were able to build up big rolls. And, the best cash game guys from DFS, in 2012, 13, 14, were able to quit their jobs and make really good living during the boom and were in really good spots. Now it's really hard to win in cash, I think. I still think there's opportunity in the right times of seasonality with DFS, but in general, it's hard to make the same kind of money that we were making back in the day with how efficient the market's gotten. So tournaments are clearly where it's at now. The challenge there is the the fees are going up on a percentage basis over and over and over again. So it's getting even harder, and all these really good tournament players obviously have an edge as well. So I'm kind of more with Levitan, but I totally understand where Bales is coming from. And obviously Bales has always been a great contrarian thinker. And in most investing, it's much better to be a contrarian thinker, in the stock market, crypto, et cetera. That's really where the big money's made. So one benefit that these GPP guys from DFS have going forward is that contrarian thinking is going to be a lot more lucrative in other markets. So we'll see.
So that goes back to like when you're right, you want to make sure you're rewarded to the max, right? So like being contrarian is one thing, anybody can do that, but being contrarian and also being right is like so hard. So when you actually hit that combo where you're contrarian and you're right, you want to be rewarded to the max. And I've had that happen to me playing cash where I didn't even know I was like being contrarian, but next thing I know, like I ended up being contrarian like a couple spots and ended up hitting like the nuts, and I didn't maximize it at all. So like me and Bales were talking about my GPP results and ROI, and like I was like in the money in like 40-something% of NFL GPPs in my life, and am a huge loser in NFL GPPs in my life also. So I've just done an atrocious job of maximizing it when I'm quote unquote right. I don't know, Bales. I don't really know what to do at this point.
And I think my in the money was much lower. It was 34, I think, or something. Actually, I think it was lower. But yeah, I think that it's really like a matter of competition. Everyone is trying to project the same things, project basically like on-field performance, what's going to happen. And I mean, we're playing daily fantasy sports. Duh, of course you need to do that. But the edge there is kind of small, I think, now. I think it's very small, actually. Whereas in the past, like when Peter was talking about people just crushing in cash and why it made sense to play cash even a couple years ago, there wasn't that same competition. There was a really big edge. And now, like, so few people focus on the second part of what the payoff is when you are right. They just try to maximize their accuracy, basically. So there's just less competition. So for that reason, I think it makes sense. And I think that's the case in lots of different forms of investing in life where people are worried about just being right. And there's a psychological component to it as well, where it just like feels good. It sucks to lose again and again and again and again or whatever. And people just maximize how often they don't feel like shit, sort of, even if the payoffs aren't actually there.
Yeah, it's really well said. And it's something that I'm trying to get better at. I'm not naturally a contrarian thinker. And I think a lot of people who are competitive and investing for a living, they get that confirmation bias by being right. And if they're not thinking about the payoff as much, it can really be detrimental to what they're doing. So especially in DFS going forward, I think there's a huge blend. The only other argument against contrarian thinking is everyone's trying to kind of be contrarian now. Like, how many people do you know that are coming up in DFS or like, really building a brand or being great DFS players that are not tournament players now? Like, there's not very many guys that are just coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to crush cash games and become one of the top grinders. Like, all the people coming up now are tournament guys. So obviously there's still a ton of value in being contrarian, but you'll see in some of these tournaments, guys that don't have as much equity have these crazy ownerships because everyone's trying to outthink everyone. So it's more of a game theory. It's still obviously the same kind of element with the game theory, but a lot of people are trying to outwit. And I know, watching some of the best cash game, like the top cash game guys, they're still printing in these high-end GPPs, just throwing out their cash game lineups because everyone else is being so contrarian.
Yeah. I also think people like being contrarian is synonymous in DFS with playing low-owned guys, that's not actually what it is. You should always be contrarian, but sometimes that just means, in poker they call it GTO. That just means, in certain spots maybe you're playing like a chalkier lineup or whatever. It's really just like exploiting other people's weaknesses and. It doesn't necessarily mean people, I think, are just doing it in a kind of a stupid way for the most part.
Yeah, my biggest mistake this NFL season, I had a team in like 800 contests. They're all head-to-heads, 3-mans, and 50-50s. And if I would have had it in the main tournaments, it would have won me an extra $600,000. Like that, my biggest mistakes over the last 2 years have been not having my cash games in tournaments.
Yeah.
Which is counterintuitive. I mean, and that's only in football where I still think I have an edge where I'm creating a better lineup than the majority of people. Obviously, in baseball, that's not working at all. In basketball, it's really challenging with all the ownership overlap. But I do think that these top-end guys like an Empire Maker or a Hoop or whoever, their cash game teams can still be really good in tournaments.
Yeah. Especially small field. Like you're talking about like the 1K and the –
I would have won literally every single one of those, like $300 and up tournaments.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right. We can talk more about that later. I think it's super interesting. I wanted to quickly hit on AdamLevitan.com because friend of the podcast, regular employee of the Action Network, Sean, I don't even know how to say his last name, Valukas?
I think so.
Both Bales and Peter and Sean were like, man, you gotta at least own AdamLevitan.com. And this was like 6 months ago. And I was like, man, I don't want to like promote myself. Like, I don't care about AdamLevitan.com. And they were like, well, first of all, somebody can buy that domain and then start like using your name to like make money that you don't get, or they can use it to say bad things about you or whoever. So you should at least own it. And then they were like, if people start Googling, you want them to be able to Google and you kind of own the narrative. You can own, like people Google, they find AdamLevitan.com, they find JonathanBales.com or whatever, and then they find out about you that way rather than whatever the internet has to say or Google has to say. So that made sense to me. I hired a friend of the podcast, Ryan Hodge, to build it. He did an awesome job. It was way easier than I thought. I'm still not too comfortable with like having my face like being the center of a website and like making it all about me, but I do think that it made sense for me to do it. So I don't know, check it out. I don't really have too many plans to do too much with it right now, but I don't know, Bales, you've had JonathanBales.com for a while. Why? And do you think normal people should have it? Maybe not even people in media. Do you think everyone should own their own domain?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have names that are like pretty specific. So if someone searches for our names, they get us. Whereas Peter like doesn't have that. If someone searches Peter Jennings, and there's a lot of names like that where they're just not going to come up. So I guess it just depends. I did it for pretty much the same reasons. I also just wanted to start a blog. It was more the blog thing, I think, to just write about things that I wanted to. And it was around the time, it hasn't been that long. I think it's maybe like 18 months or something. But Fantasy Labs was growing a lot, and I was doing like much different work at that time from before. The prior few years I was writing all the time, and like I really liked that. And then I stopped to like do day to day with Fantasy Labs, and so I started that as a way to just keep writing because I liked it. So that was really the main thing. But yeah, having the owning that where you someone else can't buy it and you control sort of what people see about you, I think is pretty important.
Peter, why not put something up on CSURAM88.com?
I actually owned that for a while. In the past, I've thought about it, a lot more focused now, obviously, on Action Network and obviously Fantasy Labs in the past. The one thing that I think you guys have a big advantage on is just you guys are great writers. That's something that is more of a challenge for me. So I'd have to figure out what I want to do. I've looked into it. I've looked in some other domains. I'm sure it's something I'll do down the road, but definitely think it was the right move for you, Adam. A really good article on how to Twitter better. I really enjoyed that. I think it's something that I'm hoping to improve on myself. And I just see so many people out there that are trying to build a brand or a business that are doing Twitter and social media in the exact opposite way of what I would do. And the way you described it, I think, is so critical. Like, add value to people's lives and you'll naturally grow a good business and a good brand. So that was a really cool article, and looking forward to more content on AdamLevitan.com.
Yeah, I agree with that. You got to keep writing. I mean, I tweeted that you have the best, Twitter account that I know, which is true. And I think, telling people more about sort of your philosophy on things would be good. I'll read everything for sure. And I think that people mess up they're trying to maximize just like the short-term results, sometimes clicks or whatever, or even revenue if they're growing a business, and not and not as worried about what you should be worried about, I think, which is like, if you're growing something, maximize the number of people that love what you do, that have to have it, have to have what you're selling, or have to have writing or whatever for like 2 years or 5 years from now. And if you do that, you'll grow like the best possible business, I think.
Yeah, exactly. No, I appreciate it. And while you guys are there at adamlevitan.com, be sure to click on the link for Fantasy Labs and sign up while you're there. Okay, let's get to the highlight of everybody's day, the most important part of the show, Lot and Thinks. We've gone a little bit long here on topics, so why don't we just do a short game of Lot and Thinks? Bales, you want to start with a question for Peter?
Sure. I got one on Twitter that I'll use. Last night I tweeted that something like I usually have like at least one sock inside out, which is true. I don't like turn them around. I thought that might be common, but maybe not. But someone tweeted about like their wife works in a jail, and so many of the people that come in have socks that are mismatched. So my question is, what percentage of people in the United States right now, what percent that are wearing socks have two different socks on?
Okay, I'm going to use a decimal just to clarify, just so we don't get the exact right answer.
Wait, total people in the United States, how many people are wearing socks?
No. What
percentage?
What percent have just two different socks on? They're not the same. They didn't buy them together or whatever.
Okay. All right, I have an answer.
I need to get a piece of paper.
Good preparation. Bales is living the Airbnb life in New York City right now. He's looking for a pen in his Airbnb. Peter, you got any other travel plans coming up? You're going to be home for a while.
I'm going to Arizona tomorrow. Going with one of the Churnin guys, and a little shout out here. And actually, while we were doing this, I thought it was hilarious. I've been doing a new podcast with Drew Stoltz called Playing the Tips. He's at Sleazy Man on Twitter. He's an ex-professional golfer, probably the funniest dude I've ever met, and he's going to meet one of the Churnin guys. We're going out to Whisper Rock. He's an amazing golfer. He's won the club championship there like 3 out of the last 5 years. John Rahm's a member there, Ches Reavie, Phil Mickelson. All these golfers are there. But yeah, he's hilarious. And Empire Maker actually complimented the podcast, which is when, it's crushing. Empire Maker gives out one compliment every 18 months. So
wait, which podcast? This podcast?
No, not this. He's not. He's not complimenting us. He's complimenting the Sleeves, man.
Yeah, the golf podcast is good. Sleeves is crushing me. And Drew is like that podcast is good.
I better check it out.
Really sharp, man. And it's good just the mix with him and Colin, like the data nerd approach versus like the inside the ropes plan. Like he literally just played with John Rahm like a couple days ago. Like,
really? How's the form? I'm thinking about using him in the WGC.
He you had to listen to the podcast, but he had an opinion on Rahm over a specific golfer in a matchup.
Oh God. Okay. All right. I have an answer here. I said 6%.
I said 9.2%.
I think we're supposed to go first, right? No, 25.
I said 9.2 because I was the answer. Doesn't matter. We all wrote it down.
I mean, I honestly thought it was like 40% or something.
25%?
You're nuts, dude.
I moved it down because I thought you would guess low.
It's definitely not that high. Even
do you sort your socks?
Yeah. When I put them in the drawer, they're all different ways inside out. But before I put them on, I put them the right way on.
Yeah, I always wear the right ones, even though probably the biggest leak I have is, investment in socks. I probably have like 1,000 socks in my condo here, and like 400 of them don't have a mate. So it's nothing worse than losing a sock.
Hold on, Levitan. Did you think the question was about the inside out?
Different pairs of socks.
No, just different pairs. Like you have one Under Armour, one Nike.
Yeah, I thought I misunderstood. All right.
All right, you have a question, Peter?
Sure. Okay. How many people, we'll stay on the golf, but I'm going to ask Bales, how many people, if they played by the PGA Tour rules, could break 100 in America?
Raw number?
They have to break 100, so they have to shoot 99 or better. How many people could do that playing 100% by the PGA Tour rules? So a lot of people, like, they hit it out of bounds and then they just drop it in the middle fairway horizontally, take a stroke penalty.
This is the number of people in America.
Number of people in America.
Oh man, this is tough because so few people play by the rules. Like that's one thing I do hate about golf, like all the gimmies and the people. I know you don't, and like people who are serious don't, but like everybody's taking gimmies, they're kicking the ball out of the rough. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
I have an answer.
All right, I have an answer.
I have an answer, and I have one, just real quick, I have one great gambling rule for gimmies out there. The way we play it is you can pick up any putt you want. So let's say, let it 10, you have a 10-foot putt. You can pick it up, but if I say, bullshit, you shouldn't have picked that up, you then have to putt it from that spot, and you have to give me 20 to 1 on whatever the unit. So if you're playing for $100, that means if you miss that putt, you owe 2,000, but if you make it, you get 100. So basically what ends up happening is you only pick up putts that you can make 95% or more. And
That's a great rule.
Yeah. You can pick up any putt you want, and then there's literally never any. Because like one of the biggest etiquette issues in golf is like, oh, you made me putt that 1-footer and I missed it. Like, screw you. I gave you a 2-footer earlier. If you just have a constant rule in place, like if someone's making you putt too many putts, make money off them.
Dude, if you watch like Shot Tracker, like Adam Scott or like some of these guys like 4-putt from like 7 feet, and then there's people
Paul Casey 3-putted 3 different times like 2 weeks ago from 4 feet or less.
Yeah.
And one of them was from like 2 feet.
And so then I got some guy who shoots 90 out here taking gimmies from 4 feet. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Who was it last year that was like an older golfer?
Ernie
that
Els.
Yeah,
it's 7-putt or something.
6 or 7 putt within like a fucking foot.
Well, the pin was kind of in a weird, or the hole was in a weird like arch, so the putt was moving, but he just got the total yips. Just so funny.
All right.
I wrote a number down.
I have a number here. I said 40 million.
I said 800,000.
12 million.
Oh,
So,
I win. Yes.
You
I'm
do.
close.
We should talk about this. How we grade these.
I agree. I think
He gets it, though.
It was in the ballpark more. We've had a lot of these.
Yeah.
We're just doing closer.
No,
numbers.
yeah, you win. But let's talk about like because the big ones we should do like some multiple thing instead of the difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think on big numbers we can do a multiple, like how far off you are in terms of a multiple instead of just total number. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
You guys want to do that? Start going forward.
Sure.
And I think your 12 million guess is egregious.
You really think it's that few people?
Yeah, playing by the rules.
Egregious?
Yeah. How many people do you think play golf in America?
Dude, that's only 1 in 30 people, right? Like,
dude, they say that what I've heard is it's like a 1 or 2% of people can actually break 100 that have played golf if they play 100% by the rules.
2% would be 1 in 50. I mean, that's not even double.
But how many people play golf? That's the thing. You have a lot of
play golf.
I don't know. Maybe I'm way off.
All right. I have a question for Bales. What percent of hotel rooms in the world has intercourse taken place in? So out of all the hotels room in the world, what percent has intercourse taken place in?
Use a decimal, Bales.
Presumably it's after a hotel launches and starts accepting its first guest.
That's a good clarification. Yeah. Hotels that have been open for at least 2 months.
Oh.
All right. I have an answer.
I have an answer.
Hold on.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Go ahead, Peter.
I said 94.2%.
I said 92.0%.
My answer is 97%.
Fuck.
Yes.
Pretty good guesses. Yeah, I mean, there's some that people that I guess that it was actually higher. I think that like a room, if people are staying in a room, they have sex. Someone has sex within like probably a week or two, right? Like in general.
As soon as there's a couple in there, like I just feel
filled
like
every night, they're gonna have sex. And I was just like trying to adjust for some rooms just don't get filled or whatever, I guess. But actually, maybe it should.
a lot of rooms get like the single traveler too. You know, like I'm sure there's hotels.
Yeah, but over 2 months they should have sex if it's getting filled up all the time. Not the same. Don't you agree?
Of course I agree.
Yeah, it's definitely
Also,
a high number.
Also, like once you have kids, like a lot of times the only place you're having intercourse is in hotels. You know what I mean? So, like me and my wife will go to like a hotel in Philly. Like we'll go to DoubleTree on Broad for the night. You know what I mean? Like it's a no brainer. But sometimes when I'm in a hotel by myself, I think about that, like how disgusting these rooms are.
And you're just snuggling up in the sheets, you know, the germs.
Don't worry, they've been through the washing machine. That means they're definitely clean.
Yeah.
All right, one more round?
One more round. 3 more questions.
All right. For Levitt, it's for you?
Well, whatever. Yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. Who asked me the question first?
This isn't going to match up no matter what because I think we need to go around 3 times, right?
Oh, yeah. I guess that's right.
That's all right. Doesn't have to match up exactly.
All right. For
as long as we each answer 2.
For Levitan, how would you rate how hot Ray Romano is from 1 to 100?
The dude question is a weird mental aspect here.
I know.
I think I'm a pretty good evaluator of men.
That's a really helpful comment. It means he's gonna have a 9.
Why do you think you're so good?
I can recognize beauty in a man.
1 to 100. Are we doing decimals again? I think there should always be decimals just to avoid.
I mean, if you want to. If not, then it's just a 0.0.
Okay. Yeah, what if it's not a decimal on my scale?
I mean, it's 1 to 100. Do you think you have it within 1 that you got to go to the decimal?
It can happen more than you think. I think anytime it's 1 to 100, we should include.
I know, but you have no good reason to think that it shouldn't be 0.0 versus
I'm just throwing it out there.
All right, I have an answer.
My answer was 42.
I said 78.
Whoa.
Ray Romano, for his age, has a decent amount of hair, is skinny, but his face is pretty disgusting, and he has no muscle tone whatsoever. So I said 32 out of 100.
He's an actor. Oh my God, you guys.
I disagree with that take, but that's good. I mean, compared to it's over the entire universe of people we're comparing him to. There's a lot of.
I think out of 100 men that are his age, he would rank.
No, we didn't say that are his age.
I guess that's true. Okay.
Oh, I'll take the one.
I thought based on your comment that you'd have like, and also on scale, like people are really tentative to give out like really high numbers. Like their real high numbers are like really, like if they give someone a 95, that'd be whatever top 5%. In reality, they're that's like a 1 in 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's how a lot of people rate. So
yeah, it's like the Richter scale. That's how hot it should be. So if you get a 9, I mean that's like most hot girls you see are easily a 9 if it's just like in the top 10%. Like
they're all like 10s essentially.
Yeah, they're like 9.9, like every hot girl basically. All right, who's up?
All right, it's Peter's turn to ask a question, and then I'll end it.
Who am I asking it to, Bales?
I think you got to ask me because I've only answered one.
Okay. How many people made money in DFS last year?
$1 counts as a win, correct?
$1 is a win.
And I feel like this information is out there, but I really don't know.
Yeah, this is a total guess.
I'm guessing too.
All right, I have an answer.
20,000.
I said 42,000.
Yeah, I said 9,000. I'm just that's probably wrong. I just have literally no idea.
I should have thought
No,
that.
they're not that. They're really not that far off.
Yeah.
By the way, we played Laden on Friday night in Boston with a group of people. With BA was in it. I think he
Jeff
did
Ma.
pretty well. Jeff Ma, and we played with Jason Robbins. You might know him. He's the CEO of DraftKings, and he guessed that there was one star in the Milky Way galaxy. So Peter had no
No,
longer.
he guessed 100 stars. 100 stars.
No.
He said one, and then he said, and then we laughed, and then he's like 100.
Oh no.
He had the same thought that I did, that the Milky Way is really small in the scheme of space. That's what
No,
I
I
thought.
never thought that we were laughing because you guys were so wrong.
All right. I'm never going to live that one down. I love how I preface it. I said specifically, I know there are more stars out there in the universe than there are grains of sand.
Yeah, the universe is
So I have a
different.
context of like that there's a shit ton of stars. However, I just screwed up the Milky Way part.
All right, I'll go. This is the last one. Who has only answered one question so far?
Peter, I think. I've done
I've
two.
answered two.
Well, I've answered two, so that's impossible.
I've done two.
Which two have you done, Bales?
Uh,
Or maybe it is me. Maybe it is me, I guess.
yeah, two.
My bad.
All right. How many people in the world own an iPhone? All right, I have an answer.
All right.
All right.
Got one.
I said 800 million.
Oh, I was going to say, I went up a little. I said 1.5 billion.
I said 500 million.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
I said I wrote down a higher number at first, and then I started thinking that like no one in Africa does. I guess Europe and China. Are the big ones.
That's no one, not a single person.
India,
in
I also
Africa
thought had
has
like
a
no
phone.
one having one.
There's a lot of places that use like different kind of phone, not an iPhone. Like places that have a lot of cell phones, but they're not necessarily an iPhone.
China is not a huge iPhone place, right?
I don't know. I
I
don't
could be
know.
wrong on that. I wrote a
Um,
higher number, but then I just started thinking about places that don't have. Like I think the U.S. and Europe is probably like the highest percentage, right?
for sure. It's got to be.
I could be way wrong.
All right. That is going to do it for another well-organized, well-prepared, well-thought-out episode of the Three Donkeys podcast. For Jerry, hopefully getting her haircut done soon. For Bales, for Peter, I am Adam. Good luck, everybody.